Okay, welcome everybody. Hopefully y'all are having a good night. It's gonna be a good time this evening. This is gonna be in two parts. I'm just gonna finish getting some things up and ready because we're a minute live. So there it is, about 10 seconds ago. Yeah. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time. Hopefully. Oh, I thought I had muted that. Oh, maybe I didn't mute it on my computer. Ah, there it is. That's why. Okay, so let's mute that. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat, so please put in those tasty questions so that I can answer it. This is the Q&A portion. As I mentioned, this is going to be in two parts. We're going to have a Q&A, which is the one that we're watching right now. And then I'm going to do an album live stream. So this is actually going to be one of my patrons' videos. But that's going to be a separate video. That's not going to be this video here. So I'm just going to bring up the information that I need to have in front of me. But this is a good time just to, get settled. Because we've passed the 7 o'clock mark, Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, pop down those questions so that I can answer them, and hopefully everybody's having a good time, right? Like it's a crazy time right now. So hopefully everybody's having a good time and treating each other well, treating yourselves well. So yeah. Pop in those questions. This is a Q&A. I'm going to start looking at, there we go, that's what I was looking for, that live stream, making sure I've got, they're changing all the stuff for YouTube, and it's not very copacetic to how I like things organized. So, yeah, it's been, nope, that's not the one I wanted. Because the one that I like has a lot of those tasty analytics, and that, my friends, is what it's all about. I love those tasty analytics. So once I get to that, let's just have a quick look. Thoughts on distorted harmony. That's from Ben. I don't know what that means. Sorry, Ben. Matthew, will you do ranking for bands with shorter discography such as Leprous, Haken, or Periphery? Yeah, Matthew actually had asked this question previously, and it's a very interesting question. The short answer is no. And there's a pretty... oh, no, that's not quite... that's what I'm looking for. Live streaming. I want to make sure that it's... Is this the one that I'm looking for? Yeah, all those tasty data. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Yeah, so Matthew, short answer, no. Longer answer is they're still recording. And unless a band is very dear to my heart, like I grew up with them, essentially, and I've spent years with, I'm shying away from doing a worst to best of those bands, only because... it's going to be outdated. Like, for instance, my Dream Theater, my Opeth, my Flower Kings, those worst to bests are now out of date because they've all released albums since I've done my worst to bests. So I want to do bands that have finished their discography so that I don't run into that problem of having it be obsolete and be out of date. So that's for that. Let's see here. Is Rush your top 10 favorite bands? No. I mean, they're a great band and I love them, but I can't honestly say they're my top 10. Just because there's so many other really amazing bands that I love. That doesn't discredit Rush at all. Like, I want to really emphasize that. That is not to discredit Rush. That is simply saying that I like a lot of other bands more. is your name actually Notes? Nope, but that's what you guys can call me. What are your thoughts of bands like Kansas? Would you ever consider doing an album review or ranking? Kansas is good. I only have really listened to their Leftovertures. I think that's the only album from them I've listened to. And from what I've heard, they're good. The U.S. prog bands of the time, like Boston, Kansas, Styx, all those, never really got into them all that much. But yeah, no, that was fun. Let's see here. Yeah, Do Camel. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a lot of bands that I'm thinking about doing for my next Worst to Best. I mean, now that my King Crimson Worst to Best is finally out, I can get to some of the other ones that I've been working on, so that'll be fun. Do I listen to Gorillaz? No, I don't. Will I ever do a Caesar and Zeb say that I should do a Worst to Best of Camel. Yeah, that's a very strong possibility. That'll probably happen sometime in the future, but who knows? What is my favorite phase of Porcupine Tree? True psychedelic or mostly metal? Okay, so this is going to be a cop-out answer, and I'm so sorry because I hate when people do these kinds of answers. But I personally, I like them both equally for different reasons, right? But I mean, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably say the metal stuff, but that isn't necessarily because I like the metal music or motif more than the psychedelic stuff. I just think that they have much more of a focus. They're much more of a mature band at the time. Like the albums that they've put out with that metal outlook, like In Absentia, Denwig, Fear of a Bleak Planet, and The Incident, I like a lot more than bands such as like Up the Downstair, The Sunday of Life, and The Sky Moves Sideways. And again, that's not discredit them of any of those. It's just, I think that they have a better handling and are a little bit more mature and a little bit more confident in their playing style. They're not ripping anybody off. They're using other motifs to blend in those styles. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go for that one. What's your favorite instrument? Joseph, you're going to have to elaborate. Instrument? Is that instrument? Serbian, how's it going, man? Haven't seen you in a while. A lot of talk about Rush. Thoughts on the Canterbury scene, band Caravan. So a lot of people have been asking me to get into the Canterbury scene. Unfortunately, I haven't really had a chance to get into the Canterbury scene. I wouldn't even know where to start, honestly. They're one of the few facets of progressive rock that I just haven't gotten into yet, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, I guess I just never was exposed to it. And nobody's really sat me down and forced me to listen to it. So, hey, if you want to donate to my Patreon, you can do that. Any love for rock in opinion? Zool. Or krautrock. I love krautrock. Tangerine Dream, I love Tangerine Dream. I think they have some, although for me, would Tangerine Dream really be krautrock? I mean, I really like Kraftwerks. I love Grobschnitt. Man, I love Grobschnitt. And I mean, some people label Triumvirat krautrock, but I mean, I'm not sure if I'd really go that far. But that was a lot of fun. Really, really enjoyed them. And Zool, I've listened to Magma. It's a little too out there for me. Yeah. Let's see here. Ben is asking me a burning question, so it better be good. Are you roughly as passionate about any other genres than progressive rock and metal? I'm not as passionate, but I definitely am passionate about music overall. So if there's something really amazing, well, I shouldn't say that now that I'm thinking about it. I'm also really passionate about classical music. Love good classical music like Beethoven, Bach, Brahms, Mozart, all the big names, but also I really love, I'm just trying to, like Tchaikovsky and Stravinsky, I've really been listening to a lot of Debussy, as my stepmom always calls him. I always called him Debussy, but he's like, no, it's French, Debussy. So really, really like that. Yeah, just like any style that catches my ear, and mostly that's just been metal and progressive rock. And it's interesting, right? Because straight up metal, I'm not a big fan of. Like, I don't like thrash metal. I'm roughly a fan of power metal, but like speed metal and all of those, I'm not a big fan. What I like is the techniques. That generally tends to be a progressive rock style. And that's why I like a lot of the metal stuff. So it's much more of the expression rather than the medium itself. Let's see here. Leftovertures and Peter Gabriel debut album. Blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for questions here. Questions. Caesar is asking thoughts on Who. I love the Who. I love Tommy. I love Who's Next. I mean, those are the only... No, I also know Quadrophenia. But those are the 3 albums that I know from them. I have the Who live at Leeds as well. Yeah, I love Tommy. I could listen to Tommy day in and day out. And when I was in high school, I was just like, nah, Quadrophenia is so much better. But is it? Not a big... Like, I do still love Quadrophenia, but I used to be one of those, oh no. Will you do a worst to best of Shag, Ian? That's a pretty funny question. Let's see here. Yeah, favorite instrument from Joseph. I don't really have a favorite instrument. Now that I'm thinking about it. Do I have a favorite instrument? No. I think as long as you use it in a unique way, that's my favorite. Although I do love a good harpsichord. And maybe that's just because they're underused now. Like, it's really hard to capture the sound of a harpsichord if it's not being played live because it plucks the string. And it's hard to, like, get that sound. Yeah, I also really love a good utilized clarinet. But it has to be very well utilized. Yeah. Third Degree, good to see you guys. Do you like krautrock? I've already mentioned that I do. Grobschnitt's probably my favorite, although Triumphirat, I wouldn't qualify them as krautrock, but I also really love them. Got some really, really great... Oops, there goes my... Come on, come back. Sometimes my wireless speaker does that, and I don't know why. I'm waiting for it to connect and play, because I'm just playing some Mannheim. I gotta have some Mannheim Steamroller here. Let's see here. Do you listen to jazz fusion acts? Ever listen to Alan Holdsworth? That's from Caesar. No, I do like jazz fusion. I think my favorite one is Return to Forever. They're a lot of fun with El Demialo on there. Yeah, I really like that. Let's see here. Do you ever listen to any film composers? Any favorite film tracks by them? Yes, I listen to a lot of film composers and soundtracks and original scores. Generally, like in my youth, I used to love Danny Elfman. I would just pore over his works. I would practically study them because I wanted to find out what it was that I loved. And I think it was like the really boom, 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 boom with the right, like those two aspects. And I mean, that's one of my favorite things that I love about progressive rock as well. I also loved how weird it was, how off-center it was. So yeah, I love a lot of his stuff. The only thing that I find now is that everybody's kind of copying Hans Zimmer, which again, I love Hans Zimmer, but I feel like everybody's kind of copying his style of that boom, 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 right? So I feel like, yeah, I also really like composers that do something different, right? Like I really love when Vangelis was doing a lot of his stuff with like Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner. But I also really like when other bands would come in and do scores. Like Peter Gabriel's done 3, Birdie, Rabbit Proof Fence, and the Last Temptation of Jesus. Those are brilliant works. So I love when, and I think, who else do I know that? I think Mogwai has done one for Kin. Explosions in the Sky did a couple for like Friday Night Lights. Obviously, you've got the two from Pink Floyd, like More, and the one from, what was it? Was it Obscured by Clouds? That was a soundtrack. Yeah. So those I really like. I could continue talking, but there's a lot of questions coming through. Let's see here. A lot of really, really good discussions going on here. Favorite rock-ish Taylor Swift song? Okay, let's see here. When she plays Never Gonna... We're Never Getting Back Together. She does it as like a really hard rock version. That's a lot of fun. I mean, my favorite song from her is probably still Getaway Car. That's less hard rock, but it still has like a hard rock tinge to it. Are You Ready For It is actually pretty hard. And I don't think it really gets the recognition that it deserves. Unfortunately, Reputation didn't get a big rap, but I really liked it. I thought it had some really meaty and heavy moments on it. So, yeah, but when she plays We're Never Getting Back Together, she does it with like this really heavy rock style, and it's quite good. Arr, Billy. All right, let's see what else we got. What is your favorite song from Hemispheres by Rush? What's your favorite song from Hemispheres by Rush? Well, I mean, there's only 4 of them, but the last track is probably my favorite. Just watched the Haken video. Mark, great. Mark Foy. Oh, Mark Foy's here. Everybody, check out Mark Foy's album, The Lonely Swing. It's really, really interesting. I'm going to shout, Mark, I'm shouting you out every time I see that. Check that out. It's really interesting. He's got some really interesting moments on there. The Lonely Swing, Mark Foy. Go check it out. Christopher, I have the advantage of owning a real harpsichord. Harpsichord is one of the best instruments for prog. If only the only real aesthetic one. Fake ones are always... Yeah, and that's the main thing about a harpsichord. You can sniff out a fake one miles away. Like, you can tell immediately if it's a synthesized harpsichord or not. Let's see here. Have you ever heard of the band Dixie Dreads? I have. And I think the reason why is because Steve Morse of Flying Colours is the guitarist. And for the longest time, I thought Steve Morse was Neil Morse's brother. I can neither confirm nor deny that. Not a music question, but what are your favorite films or directors? Ooh, that's actually a really good question. It is not music related, but I'll get to it. Favorite films? I mean, I really love, and I think I might have mentioned this in the past, I like films that kind of emulate progressive rock. It's weird. It's all kind of looped into this, but I love longer films, generally journey films, where the lead protagonist or the lead character really needs to, like, they do something, and it takes them a long time to do that. Examples of this are like Apocalypse Now, where Marlowe's going down the river to try to kill Kurtz. I mean, Heart of Darkness is one of my favorite books. But like Blade Runner, the 2005 version of King Kong, Lord of the Rings, those kinds of movies I love. I also love movies that have a very, very, very precise and unique atmosphere. And I find a lot of these are like Guillermo del Toro films, because each one of his films are very different, but they have a unique atmosphere about them. I also love like Stanley Kubrick's films, like obviously 2001: A Space Odyssey fits that for sure. The Shining, of course, as well. And yeah, I used to go through really big phases. Like I used to love, what's his face? The dude that did like being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Adaptation. I used to love his stuff. I've gone back and I'm like, it's a little much. There's a little much going on in that. But yeah. So I think that's a lot. Let's see here. Are you breaking the waiting until albums out of rule? We're stuck in dorms. Mark, yes. I am. And I'm getting addicted to viewership count. Before it didn't really bother me, but now I'm like, ooh, I could do that if it boosts some views. And I just need some really good content because unfortunately 2020 hasn't really released too many new releases yet to my ears. So I'm just looking for content at this moment. You like Love Tangerine Dream, you know Klaus Schultz. Yes, I do. I've listened to a couple of his stuff. The only thing about Klaus, though, because way back in the day, I used to be a really big Tumblr. I used to friggin' love that website. I would get lost in there for months. And I was really good friends with this one chap who was in his middle ages. He was like a middle-aged chap, and he used to love Klaus. And I listened to a few of the things, and the thing that just didn't connect with me is that there's no perch. And I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody but me, but I felt like you're in the clouds for far too much, and there's never really any like substantial grounding. Like Tangerine Dream and Vangelis and a lot of those other synthesizer specialists, and like Moog users and all those, they would always come down to a root. They would always come down to something. And I never found Klaus did that, or at least the albums that I was listening to for him. So yeah, that's what I found as well. The problem with this is that like questions are coming through. So I'm just going to skip. Sorry about a few of these. Thoughts on Zappa? Love Zappa. Let's see here. Talking about movies. Do you like David Lynch's movies? I love David Lynch's movies. He's like up there as like my top 5 favorite directors. Yeah, it's just hard to find his films now. That's the only thing. Yeah, because Twin Peaks is like one of my favorite shows of all time. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Let's see who's my favorite bass player. Ooh, that's actually a good question. I mean, now that I've gone through and listened to all of King Crimson stuff time and time again, Tony Levin's definitely up there. Love his bass line. Love his bass work. I also really, really like the guy from the Flower Kings, and his name escapes me for some reason. He's really, really good. I mean, Geddy Lee. You gotta at least shout out Geddy Lee. But yeah. Just thinking... Martin Lopez is also really good. Yeah. Yeah, anybody that doesn't follow whatever the lead guitarist is doing, essentially, is what it comes down to. Because I find, like, as much as I love John Ming, I find he's just following Petrucci too much, you know? Like, he never really does his own thing, and you can barely ever hear him. Yeah, so any bass player... Oh, you know... You know who my favorite bass player of all time is? Chris Squire. Chris Squire is my favorite bass player. Hands down my favorite. For that very reason, because he never really followed Steve Howe. He was always doing his own thing, and man, can that guy play. Like, holy jeez, can that man play. R.I.P. Why is Bill Bruford such a boss? I'd like to know that myself, because that man is a heck of a boss. What is your top 3 motorcycle albums? Ooh, Death Defying Unicorn, Heavy Metal Fruit, and the latest one that they put out that I can't remember their name on. So those 3. Bam. What's my favorite album from a Yes? Ooh, favorite solo album from a Yes member. That's hard. John Anderson, his first one, Sun Hollow, Shadows of Sun Hollow. Yeah. As much as I love Six Wives and King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table from Rick Wakeman, and Sun Hollow does things for me, man. It really, really does. Do you like Paul Thomas Anderson? The name's familiar, but it doesn't ring a bell. So, did you know Fish Out of Water by Chris Squire? Yes, that's up there as well. Silently Falling is such a transcendent song, man. Like, if you put that on and you're not ready for it, you're just going to be carried away. Holy jeez. Did you find John Anderson and Roland Stoltz collab to be kind of disappointing? It was... Oh, Jonas Ringgold! That's the dude. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Jonas Ringgold, bass player for the Flower Kings. It wasn't disappointing because it was disappointing in the fact that it was everything that I expected it to be and nothing more. I like the first 20 minutes, and then the rest just, it was all right. What do you think of Wishbone Ash? They're all right. I haven't actually listened to it, but no, it's okay. What about Aphrodite's Child? Oh, man. Yeah, what is it? The Six Horsemen? The 666 album? Like the big one? They're pretty good. I feel like I'm really far behind on a lot of these. I'm just going to like rapid fire a lot of these. Do I know the band Canatonia? Yes, but I haven't listened to it. How do you like Yankee XO, UXO from Godspeed? Love it. Probably my second favorite album of theirs. I'm aware you're a fan of Harmonium, French-Canadian band. I do not know that album, but I'll do my best to look it up, but I'll probably forget it. Are you a fan of Fish? Overall listened to lately. Fish as in the singer or Fish as in PH? I haven't listened to the PH band, but I am a fan of Fish, the Marillion singer. Do I know the band UK? Yes, I believe Bill Bruford was the drummer of that. I haven't really dove in there, unfortunately. Let's see here. Will you ever check out the Dillinger Escape Plan? A lot of people listen to them. I have not. What's my favorite track off of Selling England by the Pound? Firth the Fifth, as it's my all-time favorite choice. My all-time favorite band. What's my favorite Primus album? Honestly, the only one I've listened to all the way through is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or Primus and the Chocolate Factory, rather, with the Fungi Ensemble. I just love that album. I think it's a lot of fun. Let's see here. Have I ever listened to Chorn? Nope, have not. How do I feel about Peter Gabriel's solo albums? They're good. They're good. I really like his first album. Then he started to get really weird after that for a little bit because he stopped using like cymbals and snare drums. And he did a lot of really strange stuff. Although I love the Blue Car album, like the first Blue Car album, and then like his fourth album, because he got the first one, Scratch, Melt, Car, or like the weird car one, and then in the 80s it's more mainstream, but I actually kind of like that more, with So and Us, and then I really love Up, and he did a lot of like collaborations. I really like some of his collaborations. Let's see here. Yes, I have Zeb. I've heard of the Norwegian prog band Wobbler. I reviewed their From Silence to Something, I think what it was, their latest album. So yeah, check out my videos, man. Let's see here. Yeah, got some. Paul. Okay. The directors of There Will Be Blood, Mongolia. I've literally never seen any of his films, so I cannot say whether or not. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Pyramid Head. Not much. Staying inside. That's what's going on. Hey, what's going on? How's your 2020 been so far? Haven't heard from you in a while. Yeah, I think this is like my second live stream. So yeah, I could do like a little bit of a life update here. So I moved, I got a new job, and then the coronavirus, COVID-19 happened. So 2020 has been a heck of a year. Yeah, because I started my new job right at the beginning of the year, like the first week in January. So I had to move out of Toronto, so I'm no longer in Toronto. Sad times. But I'm way out in the middle of the bush, and the lifestyle suits me a little bit better, because I'm a wild child at heart. I love being up by the lakes and surrounded by trees. So yeah, being out in the bush, I really like it. And yeah, things are starting to settle down, except right when things started to settle down, this whole thing happened. So that's why I'm doing this. Let's see here. 30 people watching. These are some good numbers right here. There are, yeah, except right when you said that, the number started to dip because I'm watching the little counter thing. So yeah, let's spread the word, and hopefully we'll keep those numbers going. Because I think my Neil Peart, RIP, video got the most. I think I was up to like 40 or 50 people watching that, and then it got taken down because of course it did. I was listening to Rush. Let's see here. Do you know composer keyboardist Emmett Elvin? I don't know. Any love for good old Mike Oldfield? Yeah, love me some good Mike Oldfield. I mean, his album Return to Omadon might be one of my favorite albums of all of 2010s, like the whole decade. That album is just so friggin' good. Yeah. Any record store day releases you're after? I don't even know if it's still happening. right? Like, is it still happening? Does anybody know if Record Store Day is still happening? I wonder if it's all going to be online, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because the whole purpose of Record Store Day is to go to a record store, unless you're ordering from their website. There are a few, and I can't remember which ones there are now. Like, there were quite a number of albums from the list that I was just like, ooh, that's nice. But yeah. Let's see here. Worst Taylor Swift album and song. Not going to answer that. Nice try. What's my favorite album by the Beatles? Abbey Road is probably my favorite, which is very... So we got Abbey Road and then the soundtrack to The Yellow Submarine right there. Right there, those two. Really, really like Abbey Road. It's probably my favorite. And then the soundtrack to Yellow Submarine. Yeah. Are you happy about the upcoming Haken album? Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Ooh, it looks like I removed a whole bunch here. Ooh, it looks like Similitude of a Dream is, or Similitude of a Dream, I always call it Similitude, but Similitude of Prog is here. Hey, bud, how's it going? Everybody should check out Similitude's Prog channel. He does some amazing reviews and goes really in depth. His collection is vast, like holy geez, bud. Love it. So pop over and say hi. He does some amazing work. I'm just going to scoot back up because it kind of dropped down. Is there any Crimson song you can't stand? Yeah, there are a few. Do you like Opioid from Tool? I can't remember the last time I listened to it, so I can't even remember. I'm not sure. 2020 sucks. At least you have YouTube and Spotify. Yep, that's very true. Yeah. Don't forget to wash your hands. Yeah, you see me touching my face so much? Blah. I need to stop that. It's a really bad habit of mine. Would you ever consider doing your top 10 prog bands or top 10 prog bands that more underground that you would recommend? I'm going to read that again because that didn't make sense to me. I'm going to try that again, Justin. Would you ever consider doing your top 10 prog bands or top 10 prog bands that more underground that you would recommend? I'm not sure. I don't really know what that means. I'm so sorry, bud. Yeah, you might have to redo that one, bud. I'm sorry. Any Genesis song, Peter Gabriel earlier, that you hate? Hey, I'm not here to spread hate. I'm here to spread love. So let's keep the love going. Are you happy about the new... Okay, I already said yes. Lots of love for Mike Oldfield in England. The man is a legend. Yeah, I just wish they had more love here in America and Canada. He's mainly known as the dude that did the Exorcist theme, which is a little bit of a shame. Can you review Assault on the Tyranny of Reason by Emmett Alvin? If you donate to my Patreon account, I will. What kind of vinyl setup do you have? Just want to know the turntable and cartridge. So I don't know the cartridge only because the fine folks at Bay Bloor Radio down in Toronto set me up with that, and they have like trade secrets or whatnot. I'm still using the turntable that I got way back when I was in high school from my dad for Christmas, and it's an Ion USB thing because it could connect into my computer and I could record records through it. Now I just have it connected into a Yamaha receiver. So that I can actually listen to it without having to listen to it. Because when I went away for school, that's what I did. I took my computer and I took my turntable so I can still listen to my vinyls via my computer. I just had I opened up Audacity, which enabled a playthrough. So instead of recording, I would just basically play through and use my earphones for that. So yeah, that was fun. Let's see here. Build a supergroup, great prog band with 4 members of your choosing. Go. Let's see here. I would love... See, for things like this, I would always like crap out and be like, oh, I'll put, Mike Portnoy on drums, and I'd put Stephen Wilson up against with... Michael Eckefelt, and for good measures, Devin Townsend. But like these guys would never play together, Like obviously, Michael Eckefelt played with Steven Wilson for Storm Corrosion, but they only did the one album. But like Devin Towns would never, like he did play with some of them. Like I think he and Michael Effelfeld were on The Human Equation from Arion. But yeah, I used to do that when I was a teenager. I'd be like, oh, I want this bass player with this keyboardist and this. But eventually, I would just reconstruct the bands that were already there because I'm like, oh, this guy really works well with this one, and this guy really works well with that guy. So yeah, it's a fun little brain experiment, right? Let's see here. Thoughts on Destroy Ease Improv by Meshuggah. I'm not a big fan of Meshuggah, so can't say. What? Yellow Submarine? Wow, that's most of the time at least favorite for... the least favorite. Really? I love that one. I love the second side, all the soundscapes. I think that's a lot of fun. Like, I love just some of the things that were on that album, you know? And maybe it's just because it tackles a bunch of things that I just love. Let's see here. Favorite King Crimson instrumental. Well, my favorite suite, as I mentioned in my worst to best, is on Lizard. There's a moment at the midpoint where it's just the clarinet. That's probably my favorite. Yeah. Let's see here. Thoughts on the new Steven Wilson song. Loved it. I already reviewed it. Alonzo, go check out the review that I did. What I was trying to say was prog bands that are lesser known, but you think should get more recognition. Ooh, that's actually a really good point, Justin. Is it Jostin? Jostin. Yeah, because I think bands like Moon Safari, Kappa, I'm trying to think of some other ones that I love that are a little, maybe. The only problem is a lot of them are still recording. Like I'm holding out in Himlay back in Volume 2 from Moon Safari, and I don't want to do a worst to best of Moon Safari, then thinking, oh, here comes Himlay back in Volume 2, and then I have to figure out where that one would stand, right? Well, maybe I'll do it for like those bands that have kind of finished their careers. So I'll think about it. Do I like Caravan, Hawkwind, and Ozic Tentacles? I've never really thought or heard about them. Thoughts on Tame Impala? They're okay. Very like trippy, acid rock, psychedelic, kind of like a throwback to that new wave kind of a feel. Not really my exact cup of tea, but it's still good. Has anybody listened to the new Anubis album, Homeless? Oh, I didn't realize that Anubis had put out their new album. Let me just have a quick look. I'm on Spotify right now, so I can have just a quick look. We're going to put this on pause. And unfortunately, Anubis has like 5 different bands. And I'm trying to remember if this is the one that I know of. Anubis. I think that's the one. Because there's like Anubis Late. Similitude, you SOB. Look at that. I've got myself a new album to listen to. You can expect that album review in a couple of weeks there, bud. That is awesome. Thank you. This guy. Outstanding. Go and subscribe to his channel immediately. This guy. That's fantastic. Why do people like Lateralis more than 10,000 Days? Because it's better. Do I like bands Franz Ferdinand? It sounds familiar, but I've never heard them. What was the last album you bought? What was the last album I bought? There was so I bought the Shags for my April Fool's video. And then I think I also bought... Because I went to Toronto one last time at the beginning of March before everything fell apart. And while I was in Toronto for a conference, I stopped off at Sonic Boom for one more time. And I think I picked up like 4 albums. And I'm trying to remember what they were. They were in my record haul. But yeah, I do distinctly remember picking up the Shags. Do I like the Moody Blues? Yeah, they're all right. What's your favorite album cover? This question has been asked a couple of times, and it really changes a whole lot. What would be anything from Roger Dean? I love. So a lot of those Yes album covers I really like. Anything that's got like a lot of vibrance, a lot of color, but more importantly, an album that represents the music as well. So something along those lines. What 5 or so albums do you think define the current state of prog metal? That's a really good question. I find prog metal right now is kind of like in 3 different camps, right? You got the over technical stuff. And that's like bands like Meshuggah. You got bands like Between the Buried and Me. I would even throw in like just the raw energy of like Protest the Hero and things like that, where it's just like brutal, very technical, very like, let's make this as brutal as possible. Like I would even put in, but then you also have like the gent stuff that's really taken storm. It's starting to fall back a little bit because I haven't heard too much that are utilizing that, and that you're looking at like Periphery, you're looking at Tesseract, you're looking at the Contortionist, those types of bands. And then you have just straight up prog metal, like just straight prog metal. And that you're looking at like Haken, Dream Theater, probably Haken, and even like Leprous a little bit. Like I always used to think that Leprous was where the future was going. And then they kind of just got very mellow and very pastoral. And I still like it. It's just a little off kilter, a little, was a little off the mark a little bit for me. So yeah, that's kind of what I found. Let's see here. Ever thought of doing a Devin Townsend worst to best? Yeah, I thought about it, but man, that boy just keeps going. And so I wouldn't want to put down a album or a worst to best for him if he just continuously puts out more albums, because it would get obsolete very, very fast. Any highlights from 2020 so far? Nothing's really standing out, if I have to be perfectly honest. Nothing's really caught my attention all that much. So just a heads up, guys, I've got 5 more minutes because I only plan to do about 45 minutes before we take a break. And then I'm going to come back with an album live stream. So this is just a Q&A. This is kind of like the welcoming people in, hoping everybody's doing fine. And then we're going to break for 15 minutes, and I'm going to come back at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for a live stream of an album. So just letting you guys know, get your questions in. I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Any Queen-related videos in the future? Probably not, if I'm being perfectly honest. What's your favorite album from Tony Banks' orchestral released? 5 is my favorite, and in fact, it's definitely in my top 5 albums of the 2020s, or sorry, the 2010s, because man, that album blew me away hard. Holy jeez. How have things been? Has life been able to improve with the move, and what are your current plans with your channel? General Spinobi asking the real questions. Jeez. Life's starting to improve. It's still a little bit rocky. Having the new job and this whole COVID-19 isolation lockdown has kind of negated me feeling comfortable and confident in that new job. Like I love it. I've been really into it, but I always like to feel out the job and get comfortable with the job. And so, it's been a difficult transition, if I'm being perfectly honest. But that's as far as I'm going to go for that. Things are starting to get a little bit better. I think I'm starting to get used to this whole new normal, which is weird, which is why I'm doing a live stream as well. I've been able to carve out some time. So yeah. And the current plans just keep soldiering on for the current plans. My big emphasis right now are getting through the Patreon videos, so I'm doing my best getting through those. And yeah. Do I like Stevie Ray Vaughan? Yeah, he's all right. Did a Prince discography run last month? Favorite album of his? I honestly have never listened to a Prince album, if I'm being perfectly honest. What album are you streaming? That's going to be a surprise. I'm going to leave that as a surprise, and we're going to find out in 15 minutes. Let's see here. What's my favorite song from Orchestron? Never heard of them, so I can't comment. I'm sorry. Have you listened to any pre-breakup Swans albums? I have not. So maybe I should go back and listen to that. Okay, Mark Foy, good seeing you, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Again, go check out Mark Foy's album, The Lonely Swing. That's, as I said, it's very interesting. What have I been listening to get me through this whole quarantine situation? I've been going through moods. So when this first broke out, it was Mannheim Steamroller, Fresh Air, all the time. What else have I been listening to? The soundtracks for Planet Earth 2 and Frozen Planet and a Blue Planet 2. I've been listening to those a lot. Then I got deep into Genesis. I was listening to like 2 or 3 of their albums a day. And then I found myself listening to King Crimson a lot. And then I'm like, I think I should actually get down to doing this King Crimson worst to best. So I did that. And now I'm just kind of doing whatever. My girlfriend and I are doing this whole music jar thing where we've each put in like 20 different bands and artists that we want to listen to. Wrote them out, put them in a jar, and then just pull one out randomly. So the last one she pulled was Taylor Swift. So now we're listening to Taylor Swift. So yeah, that's what's getting me through. What albums, bands require multiple listens to? Anything from Gentle Giant and King Crimson. I mean, yes, for sure. I mean, pretty much any progressive rock band, if I'm being perfectly honest. Will you do a Van der Graaf generator worst to best? I think I've already tackled this. I originally was going to do that last summer, but when I was first getting into Van der Graaf generator, it was a really, really dark time in my life. And now whenever I listen to it, it's just no bueno for me. So we'll see. Maybe one day, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime in the future. Are you going to pick up Rick Wakeman's new album? I didn't realize he had one, so you didn't answer 2 of my questions. Alonzo, I'm sorry. Put them in now and I'll answer them. What are there any changes you would have made to a past worst to best? No, not really. The only thing I would probably change is just folding in those albums that had already been released. So like for Dream Theater, I'd put Distance Over Time. For Opeth, I'd put in Incantum Venenum. For the Flower Kings, I put Waiting for Miracles. Like that's pretty much the only thing I'd change, but everything else still stacks. What's your favorite Pearl Jam album? Never really listened to them, so I can't really say that. Alonzo, you've got 1 more minute to put in one of your questions again. Have you ever had any good prog like punk albums? Listen to a lot of hardcore punk and want something a bit more prog like. The only thing that I've listened to that's punk adjacent are like Green Day or like those pop punk stuff from like Sum 41 and Blink 182 and all them. I did love Green Day's 21st Century Breakdown and American Idiot. So yeah, I'm just not a big fan of like that raw stuff. And I'm going to end on Alonzo. Let's see here. He's got, okay, I'm going to just whip through these super fast. Thoughts on Nightwish? They're fine. Do you think A Day in the Life by the Beatles is the first prog song? No. Possible worst or best for Deer Hunter? Possibly. And are you talking to me because Swans is my favorite band? Maybe. General Spinobi, I'm going to just rapid fire this because I'm going to end soon. Do you think there's any level of objectivity when it comes to reviewing music? Is there any level of objectivity? Again, Spinobi asking the real questions here. The only kind of like absolute objectivity you could probably talk about are like the skill or the technicality. Like if you apply music theory to it, like how well they accomplished whatever style they were going for. And that's probably the only kind of absolute objectivity you could get when it comes to a review, is just like, if you're talking about how quick they were able to hit the notes and if they were doing this in a specific style and like that kind of thing. And I think the more objective, like absolute objectivity you get, the less interesting a review becomes. So yeah, that's just boy. And I think that's about it. I think that's about it for part 1. So we're gonna take a 10-minute break. We're gonna do a 10-minute break. And Zeb, please do more often. Gonna tell you what, we're gonna do another one in about 10 minutes here. So we're gonna take a little bit of a break. We're gonna recalibrate. I'm gonna boil the water for some more tea, and we're going to get into an album review. So hang tight, everybody. We're going to recalibrate at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So hang out for that, and we're gonna have some fun. Okay, stay frosty. Hope a lot of you can return for that, but we're going to take a small break. So yeah, we'll see you back here very, very soon.